Welcome to lecture number 3 of our Jesus of Nazareth Seminar, Feeding Trough and Workman's Chisel, Jesus' Early Life and Trade. If you're following along in the notes, please turn over to the first page of lecture number 3 in your handout booklet. One of the greatest discoveries in Israel is Israel, the land itself. It's basically unchanged since Jesus' day. The same hills, the same mountains and valleys are in basically the same places that they were in the time of Jesus, or even in the time of Abraham. But unfortunately, the maps in many Bibles show only an outline of the borders of the land, with little dots for the different towns and villages. You might get the false impression from this that the land is basically flat. But in fact, the land of Israel has a dramatic landscape, with mountains, cliffs, and canyons. From snow-capped Mount Hermon in the north to the dry and barren deserts in the south. From the Mediterranean Sea in the west to the steep cliffs of the Rift Valley in the east. Moving just a short distance on the map can mean a very different landscape, with a different view, different soils, and different plants and animals. Many times the key to understanding a passage in the Bible is knowing where it happened. So it's important to be familiar with the different areas of the land of Israel. I'm going to introduce you to the land by introducing you to its 5 major regions. To do this, we're going to look at the full-page map in your handout booklet called The Land of Israel, Physical Geography. The 5 major regions of Israel are narrow areas running up and down, north and south through the land, just like the 5 fingers on your hand. We'll begin with the coastal plain, all the way over on the left or west side of the map. The coastal plain is a narrow, flat area along the coast, not much wider than the words coastal plain that appear there on your map. This runs along the edge of the Mediterranean Sea, all the way up and down, north and south on your map, except for one place about 2/3 of the way up the map, where Mount Carmel comes cutting across the coastal plain and dips down into the sea. But then after that, the coastal plain continues again north of Mount Carmel. The section of the coastal plain just below Mount Carmel, about halfway up the map, is the plain of Sharon. You may be familiar with this as the Valley of Sharon. One of the names applied to Jesus is the lily of the Valley of Sharon. But the Bible itself doesn't call Sharon a valley. It's just called the Sharon, Ha-Sharon in Hebrew. And since it's a flat area running out to the sea, today we call it the Plain of Sharon. In Old Testament times, Sharon was an oak forest. Today, it's an area of fruit orchards, oranges, grapefruits, lemons, tangerines. All kinds of delicious fruit is grown here. If you've ever eaten Joppa oranges, they were grown somewhere along this coastal plain. The next region of the land of Israel is the Shephelah. This looks like it should be pronounced Shephelah, but the first E is what's called in Hebrew a half vowel or short vowel, so it's actually pronounced Shephelah. And this just means low hills, or in some Bibles it's translated lowlands. And that's a good description of this region, an area of low rolling hills between the river valleys that cut through it from east to west. If you look carefully, you can see those river valleys cutting through the Shephelah there on your map. This area is just about the same width as the coastal plain. It too goes all the way up and down, north and south on your map. The Shephelah is a good area for growing wheat and barley. The next region is the hill country. This is a mountainous spine of hills and uplifted land that runs north and south right through the center of the country, except in Galilee in the north, where it's broken up a little. But then it continues to the north in Upper Galilee. For historical reasons, the hill country is divided into 2 sections: the hill country of Judah to the south, and the hill country of Ephraim a little further to the north. To give you an idea of what all this looks like, I've included a cross-section at the bottom of the map, the dark black and gray area there at the bottom. The gray area is below sea level. The black area that rises up above it is above sea level. So as you can see all the way over to the left side of the map, the land starts out at sea level at the coastal plain, but then rises slowly through the Shvela, where there's a little bit more black, and then more steeply up to the peak of the hill country in the middle of the cross-section. From here, it drops down to the east in 3 big steps until it reaches the Dead Sea, which is actually below sea level. The surface of the Dead Sea is 400 meters, that's about 1,300 feet below sea level. Just beside the edge of the Dead Sea is the deepest place on the surface of the earth that you can stand and still be above water. So this means that the land actually rises up more steeply and higher into the hill country from the east than it does from the west, from the Mediterranean. The Dead Sea is already in region number 4, the Rift Canyon or Rift Valley. In the Bible, this canyon is called the Arava, although today, the northern section of the Rift Valley here, north of the Dead Sea, is often called the Jordan Valley. This is because of the Jordan River that flows right down in the center of the canyon. Can you see the little black squiggly line there? That's the Jordan River. In Hebrew, Jordan means to go down. And as you can see, that's literally true. You go down, way down, below sea level to reach the Jordan River. The Jordan flows down to the Dead Sea from the Sea of Galilee. Because it's in the Rift Valley, the Sea of Galilee is also below sea level. The surface of the sea is about 210 meters, that's about 690 feet below sea level. This huge rift canyon was created by earthquakes, many of them over many years, which caused the valley to sink down below the areas on either side. And it's still an earthquake area today. As many as 6 small earthquakes a year can be felt there. This is important when we try to understand events that took place here in the Bible, such as the collapse of the walls of Jericho. There was also an earthquake at the crucifixion of Jesus. The shape of the land in Israel also affects the weather. Rain-bearing clouds usually come in from the Mediterranean Sea, and when they do, they press up against the hill country. This causes them to drop rain on the coastal plain and the Shvela, which is why these areas have more water. But once the clouds rise up over the hill country, there's no need to drop rain anymore, and so the rain suddenly stops. This creates what's called a rain shadow, an area with very little rain. It's a dramatic effect. If you stand on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem and look west, you'll see grass and trees. But if you look east, you'll see barren desert. Because of this rain shadow, the eastern side of the hill country and the Rift Canyon are dry desert areas. This includes the Judean desert, just west of the Dead Sea. This is where Jesus was tempted by the devil for 40 days and 40 nights. In the north, in Galilee, the mountains are broken up, and so there is no rain shadow effect. And because of this, Galilee is more green and fertile than Judah in the south. But even in Galilee, the grassy hills turn brown in the dry season until the rains come again. Our fifth and final region is the eastern Highlands. This includes the region of Gilead, which you can see a little further to the north. It also includes the Golan Heights, way up in the northeast corner of the map. When the clouds coming from the west reach the cliffs on the east side of the Rift Valley, this causes them to drop rain again. And as a result, there's about a 20-mile wide area, all up and down the right side of your map, that gets enough rain for grass and even some trees. But if you go any further to the east, off the edge of the map, it becomes desert again, all the way out to Saudi Arabia. All of this fits in a small area. Modern Israel, which is about twice the size of this map, is only the size of New Jersey in the United States. The entire north-south length of this map is only 120 miles. That's 190 kilometers. The width east to west at the top of the map is only 43 miles, about 70 kilometers. What's 40 miles from where you live? The width at the bottom of the map is only about 90 miles, 140 kilometers. That's not very wide. If you stand on a tall enough building in Jerusalem, you can see Jordan to the east, and if the weather is right, you can see the Mediterranean to the west. If Israel gives the entire West Bank to the Palestinians, the center of Israel will be only 11 miles wide. Now you see why they're having such problems with the negotiations. The population is also small, only about 6 million people. I hope you've enjoyed this quick introduction to the 5 regions of the land of Israel. Be sure to catch the next section of this seminar, Section 3b, with its quick tour of the land of Israel as it was in the time of Jesus. See you then.